DeIllusions Exist. So I'm just going to do this 10-minute section that I've watched. I haven't watched the whole thing. I did watch the ending a little, and they were doing the quantum crap again. You know, quantum experience. They think the brain's a quantum something or other, and it's tunneling to the future or something. I don't know. Just absolute bullshit. So anyway, in the room now is this Piero Hofladay and Logic Rolls the Dice, who, you know, is like 15 different personalities. Whatever, he's like a chameleon. Whatever room he's in, he just molds himself to the conversation. You know, just molds his opinion to the people in the room. Ugh, this is such crap. So anyway, we're still on this conditional value thing, and you know, you can keep making arguments. You just mark, hey, in and of itself, okay, separate from context. That the argument's already been made this way 7 million times. There's no way torture in and of itself is anything but bad. There's no way you can pervert it into anything. I take a raw tooth nerve and I stick pins into it all day long. On a sentient being, it's a bad thing that's happening. A bad experience is being experienced. It's just stupid. This conversation is inane. To not be able to concede that is just, again, you know, it's desperate evasion, and that's all it is. These are just selfish cunts who wish to find excuses to say there's no logical imperative to do better than they are. They can just be lazy assholes and not fix anything, because it's none of their problem. I didn't make the mess, therefore the mess doesn't exist, and it does not need to be cleaned up. Because they don't take it seriously. If it was dioxin and it was going to cause them cancer, then they'd worry about it. If causing somebody else cancer, it's okay. That's all they're doing. Plain and simple. Anybody agreeing with them or placating this shit, fuck you. You suck.
Or interpretation.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. That is the most difficult hurdle we can't get past.
You can't hear him because his mics all suck. So he's saying that the hurdle we can't get past. So again, there's no hurdle, okay? I made it as simple as I could for you. I said I arrived on Earth. I had sensate experiences. I recognized them for what they are, good and bad. I recognize the other beings are also sensate, that they're having good and bad experiences. Now maybe they're experiencing different things, good and badly. Doesn't matter, they're having good and bad experiences. And that the bad ones are negative. They're decidedly bad. I would not wish to have them ever, if I could avoid them. Some of them are so awful, nothing good you could ever give me could compensate for them. Period. And the rest is just mathematics. Now, where in there have I made a logical mistake? You won't tell me where the logical mistake is. I gave you a simple task. It's less than 1 minute of a sermon, and you can't counter-argue it rationally. You just keep saying, I don't understand how somehow it's conditional. Suffering is never conditional. It is, by definition, in and of itself, a bad thing. And it's just idiotic for you fucktards to sit there and play this game that somehow you would, in some special circumstance for which we can't find or describe, because it can't be a conditional circumstance, choose to be in pain, to be tortured. You would never do it, so you're just liars.
Is the idea that, and is that the bad, the qualification is that I would agree to, is, yeah, torture is bad to me.
There we go. Again, what's the point? What's the point of me acknowledging that sensations are bad if I'm not going to concede they're also bad when they're in other people, and that the badness is intrinsic? I didn't judge the thing bad. It let me know it was bad. Again, the bad hits me. I don't make a judgment about it. It just starts punching the shit out of me. I don't even get a chance to make a judgment. You don't make judgments about sensations, many of them. You don't sit there and judge them. The stink of them is all over you before you even know it's happened.
Yeah. When he says, he has this and I've just listened him say it about, I don't know, 8 or 10 times.
Right, and you don't respond to it. I'm saying I don't care what you believe. All I care about is your insulting rhetoric claiming that you have some superior fucking knowledge or some superior logic, or that I have made a mistake logically. And I'm asking you, where's my logical mistake? I arrived on Earth, I had sensate experiences, I realized them as good and bad. I can't realize them as anything else. I can't experience them as anything else but good or bad. There's no way to experience them any other fucking way. I have tried. So has humanity forever tried. If they could make pain just go away, they would, you stupid fucktard. So quite obviously they can't do that. And then I've noticed that the rest of the sensate beings, I have no reason to believe they are doing anything substantially different than what I am doing, which is having value experiences. There. Show me where I have made a logical mistake in that, in those 3 statements.
In the videos I've been going through, where he says his argument is, I arrive on the planet, I realize I have sensations.
See, they can't even say it right. I don't realize I have sensations. I didn't say that's how I say it. So you can't even play my video. Can't even be honest to the fucking argument. Can't even quote me accurately. I said it 12 times and you still won't quote it accurately.
I judge them good and bad.
No, I never said I judged them. You know, I don't think. But the point is I experience them as good and bad. I don't have a chance to judge them. They're experiential events. They happen to me. I don't make them up. I don't make judgments about them. They happen.
I don't know whether there's one more statement after that.
Yeah, I can't remember the one where, yeah, everybody else is doing the same thing I'm doing. Having a value experience. And it matters when they're tortured.
But when he says I judge them good and bad,
so again, he calls it judge them good and bad. Again, I don't have any. I can't not judge somebody poking a pin in one of my tooth nerves as anything else but a bad experience. There's no other way to interpret it. If you have some other way to interpret it, then explain. But there's no other way to interpret it. It sucks. This is just too stupid. I can say a 5-year-old can get this.
he means, and once he's judged it, that's the game we all have to play.
No, I'm saying logically it's the game I have to play. Those are my logically deduced facts. Not very complicated. Alright? I've been edified by being conscious, having feelings, and recognizing the fact that they're value rich. Period. And the rest of it is just the implications logically. Once I've established the existence of bad, again, it doesn't matter who has a broken leg. I know the broken leg is the bad thing. The sensations that will go with the broken leg are the bad thing. To pretend that somehow it's only a broken leg when I have a broken leg would be illogical.
Relevant of the fact that he's judged it to himself to be bad because he understands it.
So again, he's saying I've judged it. I somehow made the suffering suffering. It isn't suffering in and of itself. It isn't intrinsically negative. No, somehow I judged it to be.
The people, the sensations back to them, he proclaims this badness is a bean counting game that we all have to partake in.
I'm just arguing that I can't see any other logical alternative. Once you've established the fact that there is something called value, alright, preservation of it, once you've established good and bad, yes, you have to choose good logically. That's logic.
So to speak. And we agree. The next video is going to concentrate, for my part, is going to concentrate on the fact that we seem to be in agreement about the machinery of consciousness creating a mechanism of repulsion and attraction.
You just think it doesn't mean anything except when it happens to you.
And our carrot and whip and so on and so forth. But my argument there is that in that mechanical description there is no art.
Well, again, it's in the description of good and bad. I'm just saying, if you're going to say there's no ought built into the negative, the deficit condition is bad. If you won't allow something to be negative, truly negative in the universe, well, I can't do anything for you. I'm just saying, I personally can't see any other way to interpret sensation. You want to interpret them differently, go ahead, but you're making a claim that I've committed a logical crime. I'm saying I have committed no logical crime. I've had sensations. My interpretation of them is they reek of value. If you can't believe that or you don't understand that, I can't help you. You're insane, in my opinion. But we're certainly not the same kind of conscious, because there's no missing it from my perspective. I can't miss the value stench.
Exactly. It won't. But when he extends that agreement of the mechanics description to what he's, I can play a clip of him agreeing that we abstract through language and mathematics the idea of positive and negative.
Yeah, well, again, those are the abstractions. The reality of positive and negative is in visceral sensation, in the raw sensation itself. It is the essence, the squoze down juice. It is the very quantum material of negative. It is the essence of it. The raw nerve being poked with a pin is the essence of bad.
But in that step, when he's done that, he says, no, it's everybody's bad.
I'm just saying, sensation is sensation no matter who's doing it. Yes, bad circumstance is bad circumstance no matter who's having the circumstance. It's just idiotic for me to say it matters. If my 13-year-old daughter, for example, were to be raped and murdered, somehow that matters, and it doesn't matter when their 13-year-old daughter was raped and murdered. Somehow the 13-year-old daughters aren't the same thing. Somehow the suffering and the torture and all the rest of it is not the same, because one's mine and one's theirs. That would be ludicrous. Logically ludicrous.
Gone, and he's admitted now that his statements are both normative and descriptive at the same time. And
well, I've never admitted it, but there's no admission to make. I'm saying I don't give a fuck about your idiotic classifications. I think it's just silly. I'm saying there's reality. You can describe it accurately or inaccurately. And this mushy, subjective bullshit is never going to get you to an accurate description. You might as well just pick a god. It's crap. It's not going to be the true answer. There is a right way. There's always a right choice. There's always a better choice. There's always a best choice. And that's just a fact.
It's an artificial introduction, really. Is the point.
No, I'd say you've artificially introduced your silly classifications where I'm going to take oughts and put them off reality's table and say there's some other kind of fact. That they don't have anything to do with reality. I'm saying no, there is real math here, there's real value here, and you either accurately understand it and describe it or you inaccurately describe it. I'm claiming I'm more accurately describing it by a long shot than you crazy, fucktarded, idiotic fucking idiots. Toasters have got a better theory than your theory. Just because toasters can't be completely wrong.
I can't get past that, I think, in the minute with them.
It's just inmendham being inmendham, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. Fuck you. Yeah, rest in peace.
Yes.
What was that picture you put up? I didn't see it.
Oh, is this sketchy? Nothing. Just while I didn't talk, you know, we're streaming video. You might as well use the information stream. But it was meaningless.
The frustrating thing is he argues in a
The frustrating thing is you can't figure out you need a better microphone.
too lame in a fashion. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, if he was a politician, I would be clapping him.
He would be clapping me. I don't think so. Yeah, I really don't think so. I don't think you could win any kind of fight. You know, period.
In respects, you know, like who in the right mind would say suffering isn't bad, and who in the right mind would say torturing isn't bad?
Well, here's the thing.
Well, look, you've said it already. You said it's infinitely better, okay, that I have a nail in my eye than you. Infinitely better. You said it in your own fucking idiotic, moronic words. So yeah, you suck.
So there's
here's the thing.
level of dialogue.
Here's the way I look at this stuff. Look at it this way. I mean, try this for just a second. Like, if, you know, having oxygen is good.
Oh, well, Piro's not even on this subject. It's just still, yeah, good if you want to survive, if you need to survive, if there's some purpose in you surviving. But there really isn't, so who cares?
Not necessarily. There's anaerobic life forms that don't care, so it's not an absolute, it's a relative truth. But for all humans...
Yeah, well, whatever. It just doesn't matter. We've already declared the idea of these obnoxious sensations and put them in the category of suffering. It doesn't matter what the exact sensations are. We already know the nature of them. They're repulsive. They're something you don't want to have happen to you. They're obnoxious to your sensibilities. They are deprivating you. They are suppressing you consciously, suffocating you consciously, tormenting you consciously. They've already been declared what they are.
Oh, and mammals, and even fish, and birds, and most creatures even. It is true. Oxygen is a good. It might even be an effluist good, where it's really the deprivation of oxygen is bad, and not being deprived is the good. But whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's an addiction. So it's like saying heroin is good because we're addicted to it. Yeah, well, maybe it's not so good.
You can obviously argue that because it's...
Sorry, but yeah, it just brings us back to your daughter again, right? Yeah, you think methadone is good, huh?
The physiological similarities of the creatures that you're considering. So, so let me just finish. So, are there other things?
Go on, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I want to play him, but I'm just saying he just all those. I'd made some really simple.
There was a bunch of digital.
You haven't made any arguments. Again, I've asked you to make one fucking argument. You're declaring me to have committed a logical trespass, to have circular logic. I explained to you how I acquired my premises. And I asked you over and over and over again to show where I made a logical mistake. You haven't done that, you fucking coward. And you're a liar. And so until you do that, you're just a liar and a coward.
Noise there or whatever didn't come through. Yeah, there you
go. I've made some really simplistic videos trying to shine a light on the distinction of usages of good and bad.
Well, there is no light to shine. Okay, I have no interest in bad that isn't bad. I have no interest in negative that's not a deficit. Those aren't the terms we're using. I've made extensive efforts to try to say I have no interest in using the word in any other context. If you think bad isn't really bad, then okay, we have to put bad in the toilet. I don't know where bad somehow became a weak word, where we don't know that bad is really bad, where somehow it's only not bad because it's bad. But I mean, I don't understand. You're saying negative isn't a real concept. Fine. I don't see any logical reason for me to think that. You think that? Well, that's fine. Go ahead and be retarded. I have no reason to think the universe isn't capable of creating negative. True negative.
It has descriptive value, normative value, this, that, and the other. He takes it as insulting, and I don't mean it to be insulting.
Well, I don't care. I mean, it's insulting that you just keep playing this game like somehow we already have been over this language difficulty. I'm not using it in any other way except for negative in the sense of negative numbers. I'm using it in that way. Period. I'm using bad in that way. Bad is a deficit. Bad is a negative condition. It needs to be corrected. Bad isn't acceptable. Bad is unacceptable.
But just to
Whatever.
for him to understand my thinking as much as I want to understand this thinking.
Again, I'm not asking, I don't want to understand your thinking. I just want you to quit lying about what I'm saying and quit claiming that you've made some logical argument demonstrating I committed some crime against logic. Quit making accusations you're not defending with a fact, fucking liar.
I mean, he just says, look.
Well, yeah, but that's separate. You know, Gary has some things going for his arguments, but he resorts to gimmicks.
Like what?
When faced with certain kinds of arguments. So it doesn't matter.
Another accusation without evidence. Fuck you.
I mean, that he's offended by this or that reaction, it doesn't really matter. We can take the idea itself and discuss it. You know, I mean, Gary...
Yeah, I really don't care about this offended part either. That's not really the important part. I'm just saying that I'm not going to let it stand. So as long as he keeps doing it, I'm going to keep attacking it.
Does use all kinds of things, of humiliation tactic.
Bullshit. It's not a tactic. My hostility is genuine. I find you people repulsive. You're glib, sadistic, evil bastards. You're selfish, motherfucking cunts. You're no better than any serial killer you want to name. You've caused as much harm and mayhem in your stupid, glib existence as they have. You're evil motherfuckers.
Blah, blah, blah. You know, he's very rhetorical. So, I mean, to be too detailed in how he takes the argument versus what the argument's really about. I mean, my point was
It's not about it. Like I said, the argument's this simple. This asshole, this liar, is saying I committed a logical mistake. And he hasn't proven it.
can obviously view things like oxygen, sunlight, various things are
all a bunch of pro-life, wishy-washy, mushy shit.
positive for human beings. They might not be positive for ants, they might not be positive for rocks, thus it's not
positive for a rock.
absolute, but we are already here. We're a particular kind of creature. You can deduce that oxygen is good for humans. So,
He does sound a bit drunk.
issue is, are there ethical things? Like, is it is the fact that it's good not to steal, is that the same as it's, you know, good to nurture children?
Sorry, I didn't know he was this boring. I forgot.
Ethical things could be derived the same way.
There's actually, you raised a good point. There's a categorical imperative and then there's a hypothetical imperative.
There we go. Hypothetical imperative. Yeah, right. Ooh, that makes a lot of sense.
You could be a good rapist depending on how well you fulfill the conditions necessary to be a rapist.
Yeah, it's just how is that on the subject? You know, measuring the performance of doing evil. You know, being a good torturer. Why bother even just saying being a rapist? Why don't you just say being a very good causer of pain? Again, this conversation is about good and bad and about what ethics are. That, by definition of the word ethics, couldn't possibly be good. Being good at causing harm would in no dictionary anywhere ever be called ethical. So this is just crap.
Right? That doesn't mean that one ought to be a rapist.
Well, again, it's not. That's not the. What does that have something to do with this conversation? This conversation is about whether or not victims should be raped and the suffering of the victim being raped, and whether or not it's a bad thing. And the fact that you've declared it bad means what? There's no ought that you ought not to do it. You've declared it a bad thing. There's no ought saying you ought not to do it. The sensations being caused are bad, unnecessarily bad, in and of themselves. No redeeming value. How is there no ought?
Even if, you know, it was all Vexia. Good.
Yeah, good. Just make it more confusing.
I made my point.
Yeah, what was your point? Again, you know, bad isn't really bad. Okay, that's your point. Quite obviously. If bad is really bad, then the ought is built in. If there's a real negative number, there's a real obligation to correct that. It's unsatisfactory. It's below grade. It's a deficit condition. You can't let it stand.
Well, I think I know what you're getting at, Pyro, but the problem is, I think, with inmendham dialogue is he wouldn't hear what you're saying and engage with that idea. He would just say something like, "What I'm saying is..."
No, it's not what I... So again, another... What's the use of this fuckface? You can't deal with a simple 30-second argument. You can't fulfill your responsibility. You've slandered and libeled me with your nonsensical, idiotic judgments, and you haven't defended them with anything like logic or facts. You stupid cunt.
There's just suffering is good, and I can't get...
Quite obviously, I don't say suffering is good, so you still can't paraphrase me correctly, ever. You liar.
Edward, you bloody idiots that don't know the difference between a nail in the eye and a cupcake.
Well, you quite obviously don't. You quite obviously don't. The only difference I think that means anything is the qualitative difference, the value difference. There's nothing else that there really isn't. I don't hate the look of nails. I don't love the look of a cupcake. So the real difference is in the sensations and the fact that the sensations reek of value.
That would be his answer to your raising of the distinctions about the types of goods and you know, I we make...
Well, again, I don't care. You say there's types of goods. I'm saying there's only really one kind of good, and that usually is the relief of some negative condition. Good is bursting a pimple. Good is taking a piss. Good is shitting. Good is ejaculating.
And logic rolls the dice.
I mean, good is taking the thorn out. Good is pain relief. Good is, yeah. I mean, I could go on and on, couldn't I?
Idea about how, yeah, you could be technically good, a good rapist, meeting this criteria, but there's no...
Well, again, you wouldn't use the word good. You would say a proficient rapist. So again, you're not even using the word good in any kind of rational way there. You just wouldn't bother doing that. You wouldn't, especially when it's a performance issue. When you're using good to describe performance, that's different than judging consequences or results. So when you're judging the performer or the performance, okay, then it's a proficiency word. And it doesn't mean the same thing, quite obviously. But again, you want to just keep bending words to suit your purposes, no matter how many times I explicitly say, this is what I mean, this is the use of the word I'm using. Now, if you won't allow this word to mean that, then we have to find another word that you'll allow to have a consistent, solid definition that you won't fuck with.
Part in there, you know, by this, what was it? You the distinctions they were.
I mean, you know, really, anybody listening to this, right? You understand. Every time we talk about these things, we end up having to say good. I mean positive. I mean profitable. I mean efficient. I mean productive. You have to go through all these qualifications because they won't just let you use the word good. So then you put all these qualifying adjectives with it, and then they complain that you're metaphoring or you're making analogies. And you're like, you're using synonyms to define something. I'm not using the synonyms to define it. I'm using it to clarify it, to say this is the definition I mean. The definition consistent with all these other words. And it's just like when we say torture, and then we have to start explaining repulsive, obnoxious, tedious, go through all the anguish. We have to go through all these words to describe these emotions so they would understand, that's what I mean. I don't mean stub toe.
Yeah, categorical versus hypothetical.
He also uses the word efficient, and it's like an efficient rapist, too.
So again, but efficient in what other context? I've always used efficient using the example of car mileage and a standard. Always. And then I say things like sufficiently efficient or insufficiently efficient. There's the point it has to achieve. In the value sense, you have to get 0 or above. 0 and less is negative, that's failure. 0 and above is acceptable.
An efficient sadist, an efficient killer.
He also said...
So again, they won't allow me to use any English words, apparently. Because every single one of them, they'll claim I'm using it in a context I've explicitly said isn't the context. I'm not using the word efficient in that context. I'm using the word efficient in the sense that if a car consumes too much gasoline for too little work, it's too inefficient to use.
That acting unethically is illogical, which is false.
Acting unethically is illogical. Again, he says it's false. So that's his claim. He says the definition of ethical, which is positive behavior, satisfactorily completing the necessary conditions of sufficient behavior. So how do you evade that? How do you evade the obligations of the word? No, you can't, logically. So I don't know what this is. Pence, nail, and I, good. Yeah, sorry, red button. Give me a reason I ought not to press the button, otherwise I cannot justify the is-ought gap. Otherwise I can't justify the is-ought gap. The gap created by you fuckers. You fucking anal jackasses with your heads up your asses. Oh, I get it. As I've explained in previous video, this is-ought gap is only a gap if you don't accept that there is one thing in the universe that has value, and that's sentient experience. Everything else has a gap, because, yeah, everything else doesn't have value. Christ, these people are so fucking stupid.
That's my big thing. Because... Go ahead.
No, if you want to add in.
Well, on efficiency, I'm trying to explain how I find him circular, because he doesn't take... He defends points with other points which haven't yet been agreed, like efficiency. So you can be talking about the bad 1 minute, and then say, what I'm saying is you have to...
Just more fucking accusations with no evidence. Liar, liar, slanderer, motherfucking cunt bastard. You're a fucking coward. I've made it as simple as I could for you, and you still won't point out the logical mistake. I arrived on Earth, I experienced sensations, They are experienced as good and bad. I can interpret them no other way. I realize other sentient beings exist on Earth. They are experiencing these good and bad sensations. Where's the logical error?
Be productive. You have to be efficient. But that's predicated on winning your argument of the bad. Now, if you start trying to explain stuff about efficiency to him, in the next minute, he'll be telling you, you can't tell me.
Yeah, more. Just lie some more, fatty. You fucking liar. Back it up or shut up. Prove it or shut up. You liar.
Suffering's not bad. And you'll be back over there. And you can't remain in one position without getting some other.
Yeah, we've already got you nailed, okay? A nail in that guy's eye is infinitely better than a nail in my eye. We got you nailed, retard.
Authoritative statement rammed down your throat, you know.
I don't have a problem with it.
A little laugh from douchebag. Fucking Emmanuel cunt.
Efficiency or anything like that, or productivity. It's just that that term by itself is relative, right? It has no meaning without it.
Right. It has no meaning unless you establish the existence of something that has value. That's right. It doesn't have any meaning unless you establish something that has value. And what I'm claiming is, when I arrived on Earth and I started having sensations, I recognized them as valuable things. That there was definitely negative ones and definitely positive ones. And what's your counter-argument to that simple truth, you motherfucking cunt? Nothing. God, you people suck.
Context. So it has to be productive.
What context? There's no context. There's experiences. A chain, a transition through life of experiences. No context. Just experiences.
Or efficient relative to something. And the thing is that he's established
the efficiency was merely stating that there's these negative sensations and nobody is going to subject themselves to 10 years of having a nail shoved in and out of their eye for a grilled cheese sandwich. That's what the efficiency means.
Goal of the game, which is to reduce suffering, cumulative suffering in the universe. You can be
yeah, I used the word net about a zillion times. All that matters is the net score, the net outcome, the net condition. Is the world in less pain? Period. That's how you judge performance. Performance is judged. Your individual performance, in my opinion, is decided by whether or not that question is answered in the affirmative or the other way. Did you cause there to be less suffering taking place in sentient beings through your existence?
Explained why that. Actually, Logic and I have been going back and forth in this whole thing on how to properly define ethics. And,
whatever. Ethics, it really just doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means something in a social contract way. It means something in the sense that we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future, so we have to do some probability figuring. But in truth, the only thing that's going to matter is your end game performance. What happened in the end? And that's all that's going to matter. You're either going to succeed or fail. And you're going to succeed and fail based on the fact that you either caused more suffering or you prevented more suffering. Period. Period. Yeah, so they pull in there with a period. Yeah. Is there any point? I don't think there's any point going further. Oh, one more.
I think we both generally agree that ethics has to do with the reduction of suffering, the promotion of well-being, acting fairly, and that sort of thing. So I have no problem.
Obviously, Justin doesn't agree with that.
Identifying certain things as unethical in a descriptive sense, right? But
yeah, unethical in a descriptive sense. Like that makes some sort. Does that make any sense to you? I will describe something as bad, but it's not really bad because there's no ought. Yeah, if there's no ought, there's no bad. Sorry. I mean, realistically, it can't be bad if there's no ought. If you ought not to fix it, it's not really broken. It's that simple. It doesn't need to be dried if it's not meaningfully wet. I mean, you're just breaking language. You can't have a negative or a bad and then say there's no ought. Because then there's no real bad. It can't really be bad if there's no ought. If it doesn't need to be fixed, it's not broken. Yeah, that's the simplest way to put it. Yeah, now we'll end. But yeah, I just hope all these glib motherfuckers get what they deserve. That's all I can say. Fuck these people. You know, they really are. I mean, like, I'm not kidding. Serial killers, yes, they cause some pain and suffering in a few individuals that they ruin, and the families of those people. But when you think about what the average meat eater and these glib assholes do, what they finance, and what they're supporting through their silly, stupid arguments, the dumb ignorance they're festering in other people's brains with this retarded conversation, these people are more dangerous. Yeah. Yeah. Enough said. Till next time.